Hello and welcome to another episode of Anniversary Edition. Today we're going to be talking about The Italian Job, which celebrates its 50th anniversary this year. As always, we are going to spoil the film, so do go and watch it and come back and have a little listen. I'm Sophie and I am here today with Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
And Tom.
Hello.
Hey. So this is a 1969 British comedy heist movie directed by Peter Collinson. I've written a little blurb.
I'm excited.
Are you? Okay.
I am so excited for this blurb. I was watching The Italian Job thinking, but what's the blurb going to be?
It's average blurb, I would say.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not. Who knows? We'll find out in a second. So, Charlie Croker and his team plan an elaborate heist to steal $4 million in gold and must escape by creating a huge traffic jam in the city of Turin.
Perfect.
It's kind of what happens, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It
I
goes
think
up.
it sums it up.
Yeah.
There's more money involved. It's supposed to be 4 million.
And then it increases and increases
yeah.
throughout the film. So top lines. I'm going to start with this. I thought this was okay.
Oh.
Because I really liked the heist.
Okay.
Okay.
The rest of the film, which is probably the 3/4 of the film,
More than that, really.
yeah, maybe more than that, I didn't love.
You didn't love?
I definitely didn't love. I might be being slightly polite. I found it a bit of a chore to watch.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. But I really did like the heist.
The heist.
Yeah. I thought it was really good.
Okay.
Adam?
I'm, along with Sophie, I found this a bit of a chore to watch. I'm just a complete top line. I'm also going to be polite. Just for the top line.
Okay.
You understand? I'm
Of
polite at the
course.
top. I'm not a fan.
Okay. Tom?
This is one of my favourite films.
Ever?
Yep.
That's hard to believe.
Okay. Why do you love it so much?
I just do. I just like it. I think it's fun and I enjoy it. I don't know. I find it amusing. I think the script's good. I think the action's good. I find a lot of the characters kind of charming. And I think it's a good, easy watch.
I think it's very, typical of its time, I guess.
Yeah, very much so.
I was going to say genre, but that's not true.
I think it's very much a 60s movie.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of, it's a movie of its time. And, that I just like it.
You just like it?
Yeah, I like the way
Okay.
it's shot. Yeah.
When did you first see it?
In my early teens.
Oh, okay.
I can remember, it must have been in my early teens because I remember being rudely awakened by my dad shouting for me to come downstairs at 1 in the afternoon. And
Look, you sleeping until 1.
well, yeah, I mean, because I generally would have slept in quite a lot longer than that. But just saying, come and watch this film because The Italian Job's on, and I'd never heard of it. I didn't know what it was on about. And he basically said, "There's a really good car chase in it. Come and watch it." And I will generally watch a car chase movie.
Okay.
Or something that's got car stunts in it. That's because I enjoy that sort of stuff, and that's the TV that I grew up on was always very kind of car stunt heavy. I've always been into cars, so that was something that appealed to me. So I got up, I watched it, I really liked it, and I have ever since.
Is it a film that you watch again and again?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that?
Credulosity of that.
That was such a mean way of saying that. I'm sorry. In what kind of mood? When you're in a certain mood,
I
you
don't
have to
think you
watch a
get this.
film.
He would watch it in any mood.
In any mood.
I mean, I find it's a very it's an entertainment movie. So
I get
you
that.
can switch your brain off, you can just enjoy it. So it's it's a good Sunday afternoon movie. If I'm flicking through the TV channels and it's on, I'll just leave it on.
Yeah.
It's that kind of film. It's kind of just I know I love this, and I'll just have it on.
It's very inoffensive in that way.
Yeah.
So I get that. Adam, how about you? When did you first see this?
This was the first time I'd seen this film.
Yeah?
I had certainly seen parts of it. I feel like my brother's a fan. Alex, you a fan? Send me a text if you're a fan. This is the first time I'd actually seen this version, The Italian Job. I'd seen the Mark Wahlberg version,
Right.
unfortunately,
I
of The
haven't watched
Italian
that.
Job. It's better than this.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a lot better than this. But
Why do you say it's better? What do you mean? In what ways?
well, it matches the modern standard.
That's because it's a more modern film.
Well, sure.
But if you take that
doesn't mean
away,
it's better.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
Because modern films are not better than old films.
Well, if we're talking about picture quality, if we're talking about sound quality, if we're talking about editing quality, if we're talking about the outrageousness of the stunts, then yes, we're surpassing The Italian Job.
is the story the same?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mostly.
Did you like the story?
mostly. It was more of a... The Italian Job, the new one, was more of a... it had a larger cast. Or, I mean, same size of cast,
Yeah.
but more characters were developed.
Right, okay.
And more of an ensemble film, that's the word. I always forget the
There you
French
go.
words.
Okay. So, just seen it the once. Would you ever see it again?
No, never. And I didn't hate this film. Mm-hmm. I didn't hate this film. I thought the script was pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Some of the dialogue was quite nice, even if the actors couldn't quite pull it off. Some of the dialogue was nice. I think I've mentioned this a couple of times before. I mentioned it specifically, actually, I remember the films mentioned on Seven Samurai and Godzilla, when some of the actors in the background are just happy to be there. They're like, I can't believe I'm in a movie. So everything they're doing, they're just grinning from ear to ear. Yeah. Even if the scene doesn't call for it, they're like, oh my God, I'm in a film. This is amazing. Italian Job suffers from this quite a lot as well.
I didn't notice that.
People in the background not acting, just being like, oh my God, there's a camera pointing my direction. This is amazing.
Oh, I completely missed that in this film.
I wouldn't watch this again, but not because I hated it, basically.
Okay.
Just because I was quite rigorously not entertained by it.
Fair enough. Okay. I mean, I first saw this, like you, I think. I've seen definitely bits of it.
Yeah.
When it's been on TV.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember, like, the scene with the minis.
Yeah.
But I think I've probably only seen, like, little snapshots of it. I don't think I've ever sat and watched a stretch of it. It would have been, like, literally, like, 5-10 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
So this was the first time I watched it all the way through.
What did you think of it?
Yeah, I wouldn't watch it again and again. I did really enjoy, as soon as we were having the heist, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, you did say to me that you quite liked the heist section.
I thought it was good.
That it finally picked up.
Yeah, because I just thought the pace was, because I hadn't seen it before, I suppose I had those images in my head.
Yeah.
So I think I was expecting to see way more of that. And I think I was expecting for much more of the film to be the last part, essentially.
Right, yeah.
Which obviously it couldn't ever really be.
Yeah, it's a lot of build-up.
There's a lot of build-up. And it kind of reminded me of films like Ocean's 11, where you've got this whole, build-up, and it's this huge, like, scene that you're just waiting for.
Yeah.
But I think maybe, we've talked about this before, but I think maybe it's because of the expectation of going into it. I was expecting to see loads more action, and it's a cult film. So many people reference it for car chases and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, so I was sort of thinking, the Gone in 60 Seconds and Fast and the Furious, all that stuff had sort of stemmed from this. And I was like, oh, it's such a tiny part of the film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, those movies have, because, I mean, in terms of like iconic car chases, the ones that really like spring to mind from this era and the earlier ones I can think of are the Italian Job, like the sequence in this, although it's not really, I suppose, a chase, but the car stunt sequence.
Yeah.
The car chase in Bullet, the Steve McQueen movie where they're going through the streets of San Francisco. And, there was the occasional bit of car action in a Bond movie. Yeah. But not really actual sort of car chases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Particularly. So I feel like this is one of the things that sort of started that off. Yeah. To a degree. I'm sure there are others that I don't know about. There was another movie called Robbery, which was produced by the same producer as this.
Oh, okay.
And written by the same writer as this. That's got some good car sequence in it as well. And it was directed by the guy that directed Bullet.
Right.
And that was a few years earlier than this.
Yeah. I just... it seemed... Thinking about it, actually, it's so similar to Ocean's 11. Because he comes out of prison at the beginning.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of... there's the girlfriend or, wife or whatever. In Ocean's 11. So it is a really similar formula.
Yeah, most heist movies are like
it's got that really kind of formulaic. But I felt, I suppose, in other heist movies I've seen, the pace was still quite established at the beginning.
Okay.
They build momentum.
They do.
They build momentum, and they never really let that momentum not build. Mm-hmm. They're always working towards something.
Yeah.
Which the Italian Job, I think, fails to do.
I think it's just a different way of doing it, I think. And I think it's not what I'm used to. Right. And I think that's why, and I had those expectations. I think that's why I was a bit like, oh, yeah, it's not quite what I expected. Right. And it was really weird as well seeing Michael Caine in, looking that young, but all the films I've seen him in, I suppose... He's been a lot older. Yeah. So I was like, he looks okay.
Relatively young.
Well, I mean, this would have been... I mean, he'd done Alfie before, as his probably the biggest film that he'd done before that. Yeah. And the Ipcris File. Actually, the Ipcris File came first. Alfie, Zulu. So there were a few big ones beforehand. I guess, he's not really front and centre in Zulu, but he's one of the main guys in it. Ipcris File, he's the lead. Alfie, he's the lead.
Yep. See, I've not seen his Alfie.
Right. Okay.
I've only seen the Jude Law remake.
Was he generally considered a good actor when he was younger?
Yeah.
I mean, he's in his big films, but he's fluffing lines in this.
No, I mean, he was considered, he was one of the bankable box office stars of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, he's better now.
I think he's good in this. I think he's great in the Ipcris File.
It's just a shame to watch these big movies and see lines be sort of stammered over.
But then maybe that's part of the characterization. It's not.
It's probably just part of what films were back then.
Maybe that's not something that I noticed a lot of watching it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would say, for example, the Italian Job and the Ipcris File are genuinely two of my all-time favourite movies.
Now I feel like I'm dumping on one of your all-time favourite movies, which I kind of am.
Well, yeah, but that's fine.
So I'm looking at the critic scores for the Italian Job 1969 versus the Italian Job 2003. Okay. And the Italian Job 1969 has a Metacritic of 69. Okay. Which is a crazy coincidence. And the Italian Job 2003 has a Metacritic of 68. Ooh. Mm-hmm. So not stellar for either. Although the Italian Job is strangely, whilst the 2003 one, people seem to all think that it's just, an alright movie. Mm-hmm. The Italian Job 1969 is very torn. Yeah. It's the Telegraph and Empire giving this a 100 out of 100. Wow. Greatest film of all time. Yeah. And then the New York Times, who are so angry about it, they use the R word, which you can't say nowadays.
That might be to do because it didn't do it didn't do well in the US at all.
It's a very nationalist.
Yeah, it's a very UK-centric film, despite the fact it was made by Paramount. And it was Bob Evans was the,
But it is very much a British comedy.
Oh yeah, very much.
Yeah, I wonder Benny Hill, the Self-Preservation Society going on. It's
I mean, that was Quincy Jones, so that was all done by an American anyway. But the reason that the US essentially funded it and kind of got it off and they thought it was going to be big is because Alfie was a huge hit in the US. Yeah. And they thought they were going to kind of capture that lightning in a bottle again. And it didn't really happen because they marketed it very badly in the US. Okay. If you see the US poster, it looks like a 70s blaxploitation movie. and there's like, you know, it's like Michael Caine with like a shotgun on a chair with a girl kneeling at his feet with like a map on her back, and it's just not this movie at all.
Yeah.
So I think it failed in the US because of its marketing predominantly, and then people went in thinking it was not what it was.
Yeah, and again, that comes back to your expectation, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It's what you're expecting from going into a film. So whatever you think a film should be, unless it massively turns that on its head, it's either just it's basically not going to fulfill it. So you're going to come out thinking, oh, that was a bit.
Yeah, I think sometimes
feeling flat.
Sometimes that works for a movie, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So Tom, I'm going to come to you because you obviously love this film.
Yeah.
So what are your favourite moments?
I mean, the car sequence.
Yeah.
Because that's what it all builds up to. I think, and as a kid, that was what I loved. And like you guys, I probably wouldn't have watched a lot of the preamble up to that. I would have, like, if I had the VHS, I would have skipped to the car chase because that's the exciting bit, right? But as I've got on older, I appreciate the build up and the pacing of the rest of the movie. I'm a big fan of the way movies of this era look and how they're shot. I like the way, like, the film stock they used, and that, like, the way they framed things. I think there's a lot of interesting composition, that kind of stuff. So that all appeals to me, and that I've appreciated more, obviously, as I've got more into filmmaking and as I've gotten older. But yeah, it's the car sequence. Because, I mean, that was done by a French guy called Remy Julien, who is one of the most, if not the most inventive, like, car stunt choreographers that has ever been, really. He's done some amazing stuff, and he just had a skill and knowledge of mathematics and physics that allowed him to pull off these stunts with, you know, relative ease, I guess. So it'd be the car sequence.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the same for me. Like in particular, in that section, I suppose, I love the bit with the minis cutting down the staircase when they're getting married.
Yes, yeah.
At the church steps, and the bit across the river.
Right, across the weir.
Across the weir, and it's those two scenes in particular. I thought were really, really just clever to watch and.
Yeah,
shot really nicely.
Yeah, I like the sequence in the sewer tunnel as well.
Oh yeah.
Where they attempted to get the car to do a complete loop, but they couldn't quite make it do it.
Yeah, it just goes. It
kind of goes out the side, and I think they managed to get it up to the top, and then it just landed on its roof. But they were going to try and kind of get a full rotation, but they couldn't manage it on the day, unfortunately. But yeah, I like that as well. I think there's a lot of iconic imagery in that sequence.
Well, I'm trying to think as well. I'm sure I've seen in like car adverts. Newer car adverts, obviously, that have been around, I guess, since this film. There's been so many little nods to that sequence. Yeah. Throughout kind of advertising.
Yeah, there's an episode of MacGyver from the 80s that is set in. I think in MacGyver it's set in Hungary, and the basic premise for the episode is MacGyver creating a traffic jam and escaping in 3 minutes, because MacGyver was made by Paramount, and they needed a cheap way to make an episode of MacGyver, and they had a movie that didn't do well in the States that pretty much no one had seen because it hadn't gone out on home ents in the US at that point.
Okay.
So they literally just cut up that sequence and drop in-car shots of MacGyver in the red Mini. It's just crazy. Like, you know, you wouldn't credit that they'd be able to do it, but
wow,
they
did.
Yeah.
Huh. Adam, how about you? What's your kind of favourite scene?
I don't have a favourite scene.
Okay.
There's not a scene I love.
Okay.
I like the character of Charlie Croker.
Okay.
I think Michael Caine plays him relatively charismatically. And he's written in a fun way.
Yeah.
A lot of his lines are well done, quite smart, and I want to say funny, but I want to stress that this is not a film that makes you laugh, I don't think. It's more of like a smirksome film, like, oh, that was a clever retort.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I laugh out loud? I think I laughed a little.
Yeah, I do.
In the
There's bits I
beginning of
find
this.
funny.
Yeah. I can't remember them though.
My issue is, I think you have to find that sort of 70s campiness funny. You have to be dialed into that. And I'm not. It leaves me so cold. And that is almost like my fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost my fault. But I just cannot find it funny.
Okay.
At all. Leaves me cold. So when you get Benny Hill being like a perverted professor who likes having sex with fat women, and he's all mincing, and you're supposed to find that funny. There's no jokes, but you're supposed to find the personification funny.
Yeah.
No, I don't find it funny. So I have issues, and I think that's one of the larger roadblocks to me enjoying the Italian Job.
Right. Okay.
The tone of it is just the antithesis of what I like in a film.
It's interesting because the stuff with Benny Hill was not what the writer intended, and
really?
it's actually what he's not a fan of. And I think, I'd agree to an extent that the Benny Hill specific stuff I think is over the top.
Yes,
like
so
the
do I.
speeded up section where and that kind of stuff. I don't think that works particularly well, but I do like the other stuff. I like the other. There's other elements of humour within it that I find amusing.
Yeah.
I like the scene when Charlie goes to pick up his Aston Martin in the garage, pretending he's been on a holiday shooting tigers.
I used a machine gun.
Exactly, yeah. See, stuff like that makes me laugh.
That's what I liked about it,
Yeah.
because he has these funny responses to things. He's clearly like a witty guy.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's such a shame.
Yeah. But
because they take all this time developing this witty guy, and then he doesn't have a line for the final act of the movie. Or, like, he has a couple of lines, but...
Well, that's because it's the car
Drive
chase.
over there.
Yeah.
Drive over there.
Yeah.
It's because
Drive faster.
the cars become the main characters at that point.
Yeah. So, I feel like there's a missed opportunity to write for
him.
To write him in things to do during this scene, because you wouldn't do that in a modern movie.
No. But then I think you have different things at play in a modern movie. Like the stunts would be so different, and it would be...
I always feel like I approach the older films that we cover on this show from maybe too much of a modern perspective, because I'm trying to sit here and think, is there any reason why I would tell my nephews, my nieces, whoever, to watch this movie at like 15 years old or 10 years old? Would I tell them to watch this movie? And if not, why not? And without the idea, without the sense that this film has any kind of historical significance, or whether it was a tremendous technical achievement for its time, like, do they care?
Well, it depends if they love cars or if they wanted to make films.
If
Probably.
they love cars, there are
Yeah.
1,000 better films than this. 1,000.
Yeah, but if they love cars, they probably would enjoy it still.
If they love cars, they'll enjoy the last third of this movie.
Yeah. If they want to make films.
Third is probably being a bit...
But if they
Was it the
love
last, like,
films,
15,
they
20
would
minutes?
probably like this movie too.
Really?
Well,
I love
mean-
films. I don't like this movie.
they want to make films though.
If they want to make films, what's there to learn?
I mean, I don't know because I'm not a filmmaker.
Because you wouldn't make a film like this nowadays.
No.
I would.
Well, then you'd be wasting money.
Well, you'd have
Your
other
producer
things.
would be pissed.
But it's to do with the fact that that in movies of this era, there are things that people did differently. There are risks that they took then that they don't take now, and there are
But also, there are
aesthetics
things
and
that are
ways of
holding them
framing.
back a lot that aren't holding people back a lot now. So
But
if
that
you make a
doesn't-
film in the same way as doing this, you're just wasting resource left, right, and centre.
Well, no,
Well, it
because
depends on what you mean by making a film in this way.
I mean, it's would I like to shoot a movie on film? Absolutely. Would I like to shoot a film that has an interesting and stylized cinematography. Absolutely.
Sure.
And
Why does it have to be an Italian job?
but because like there's something in films like The Italian Job, The Ipcress File, Bullet. They have to me they have this. There's something about them that I see in them, and like Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
And that there's an aesthetic that really appeals to me.
Yeah.
As someone who, and I like the visuals.
Yeah.
There's stuff they do. They do a bit in The Italian Job. They do it to the extreme in The Ipcress File, but there's different ways they frame the images that are more interesting, and they're not what you have in modern cinema a lot of the time now. Because in modern cinema now, there are other pressures, there are other things holding you back. There are other, there's a tendency to fix things in post, and there's, so there's, sometimes you don't get the strong visuals. So when you do have a director that has strong and distinctive visuals, they tend to stand out. Because it's not your standard dialogue scene of a over the shoulder, and a wide to establish. They do something a bit different, a bit interesting. So that's why I like a lot of movies from this era, because they are different.
Well, I think you wouldn't make a film like this now because you couldn't, because you know so much more. Like, so your start point would be so different anyway. But you say, you would pull out the things that you really
you'd
like.
Be influenced by it.
Yeah,
but there's
absolutely.
a lot that I would be influenced by.
Yeah, and there's
from this
choices
era.
that you'd make probably that would be different to other people because you are, as you say, influenced by this.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like, the stuff you can do with cameras nowadays that you can, and CGI that you can use to enhance car chases and that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. I mean, just look at Fast and Furious. Some of the stuff, every time they try to make it bigger, better, I feel like it gets worse. Because sometimes the simple practical car stunts are what are most impressive. So there's swings and roundabouts to everything. I just there's something about the aesthetic that I really, really like, and that's what informs me as a filmmaker.
Yeah,
I think.
You want to say something?
There's nothing. No. Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay. So your favourite character, like you said, Adam?
My favourite character
Charlie.
is the only character that's written.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I like Charlie.
Yeah.
I like Mr. Bridger as well.
I don't get him.
Why don't you get him?
I don't understand why half of the scenes that he's in are in the film.
Well, I mean, he's the man.
He's the threat, which I get.
No.
Oh, he's not even the threat. Then what's he for?
He bankrolls the thing. I mean, that's the basically like he's the man that puts up the money to give them all of the stuff they need to do the heist.
Yep.
To get them to Italy, to get them the
Yep.
cars. He's the man that so essentially the biggest cut is going to have to go to him.
Yep.
So they're essentially working for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
The mafia are the threat, and Bridger is if it goes wrong, if the mafia don't get them, he will.
Yeah. So he's a threat.
Yeah, but it boxes Charlie in. But I just like him as a character. I think he's an interesting kind of character, and I think it's an interesting dynamic and interplay.
Well, I think there's a film out there that he would have fit really well into, that investigates sort of crime and punishment of the era. But half the scenes he's in, I don't know how you feel about it, Sophie. Half the scenes he's in just seem to be put in there just to give Noel Coward something to do.
Well, it's hard because I wasn't as engaged as I thought I would be watching the beginning part of this film. So I think, I think there are times when I'm like, there's not a lot of driving plot stuff that happens in his scenes. I mean, arguably there is because, like you say, he puts up the money.
There are a number of scenes.
He pushes.
There's exposition.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Yeah, I know what you mean.
There are scenes where someone, like a convict, will come up to him and tell him how Charlie's getting on. Mm-hmm. Why do I need to know this? I'm watching the film. I know how Charlie's getting on. There are a number of scenes just doing that.
Yeah.
Why are we here?
And it's kind of it's an exchange of information.
It's a waste of time, is what it is.
But yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
Charlie's succeeded with the heist. I know. You've just stopped the action scene to go to jail to tell Noel Coward that Charlie succeeded in the heist. I've seen it.
Yeah. And I get that. And it does, I think, like I was saying, for me, the pace...
It's a tranquilizer is what it is.
The pace isn't as exciting as I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of... I keep comparing it to Ocean's 11, but I'm trying to kind of think about what it is about that I find keeps the pace going more versus this. And I think maybe it is interjections like that where you kind of... It's like a fact exchange and you're like, okay.
Can I just... When you talk about Ocean's 11, you're talking about the Steven Soderbergh, George Clooney, Brad Pitt one, right? Okay.
Not the... Okay.
Have you ever seen the Frank Sinatra one?
Yes, bits of, but never sat.
No, because
that was very different.
It's made around the same era as this.
Yeah. And stylistically, I think it'd be really similar.
It's same plot and etc. But again, the pacing of it is like it's really boring.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can kind of see like I think for me, there's always that thing of like the concept of the cars and that kind of stuff. So that's always what keeps me in it.
Yeah.
So,
and I suppose like I'm not a huge car person. Like I mean, I like nice cars, but I don't have that kind of invested interest that will keep me like ticking over. I mean, I don't professionally gamble either, so you know, I don't have that invested interest in that per se. But I don't know. I found it just a bit. It was just a bit slow, and I think probably it was scenes like that because I was like, I'm not getting anything from watching those scenes.
Yeah.
Apart from the ones, as you say, Tom, that you know you need them there, and you need to know what's going on the other side in terms of where the money's coming from and what that relationship is, and the fact that there is another threat if they don't succeed, as you say, with the mafia, and you've got all these kind of layers. But yeah, I was kind of at times like, what's this all about again?
Right.
With him? But I think again, it's just because my engagement dipped.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary plot-wise to know where he gets the funding from to pull his bank job. Not his bank job, his
Well, I mean, if he's a criminal and he's not been working...
Yeah.
You could
hasn't got any money,
invent
in
that he's
theory.
a criminal because he was a bank robber and now he's got loads of money stashed away.
Well,
you
true.
could explain away Noel Coward's whole character in a line if you wanted.
Yeah, you could.
But you need him there because you need the audience to think, but if this heist goes wrong, they can't go back to England empty-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're a mob boss, a ton of money. So that's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. But we don't need to check in with this guy. We just don't.
But
Tom, you say like when you see these scenes, you enjoy watching them.
Yeah, I think it, for me, I think it just it essentially creates your B story. It gives you something to cut away to, so that you're not following the main action all the time.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Because you need. I don't want to. I don't
Other
mean
characters exist. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like you need something else going on to cut to.
Yeah, you can't have just one.
You need
character that you just like follow in a linear like.
Yeah, I mean,
boring.
You know, it would have been interesting if we'd have like spent more time with the mafia, maybe, rather than Noel Coward's character.
Quite
because
possibly.
they're a far more imminent threat in this film.
Well,
Yes.
and also they don't know what's going on.
And they spent a lot of time building Noel Coward's character.
Yeah.
To no avail.
I'd imagine the
To no
mafia
avail.
were more of a threat in real life as well. But,
Oh, yeah, sure.
so I can understand
Definitely.
why you'd want to go with Mr. Bridger,
definitely.
you know.
Yeah.
There's no ending to this B plot. Mm-hmm. Noel Coward's character ends up eating his steak in the middle of this jail,
Yeah, well, I mean,
doing nothing.
Yeah, he succeeds. The thing with Bridger is that he's the key in that prison. He's the man
He's the
that
kingpin.
controls everything in that
Everything, yeah.
prison. So whether this goes right or wrong will probably have a big impact within that.
Yeah.
Even though we don't explore that at all, but so that's why everyone's behind him working, because they know that maybe for a while their lives are going to be a bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just a
that's interesting.
shame that they don't explore that at all. And in fact, I guess we should talk about the fact that the film has no ending.
So I was going to ask, is it still a good movie? Are we fans? And the biggest thing for me is that I was like, I didn't like the ending.
I was watching you watch that, and you were so pissed off.
I was really annoyed because I was just like, it really bugs me when films do that.
Did the mafia win? I don't know. Did Charlie win? I don't know. Did Bridget lose? I don't know.
No. And I liked the line of like, I've got a great idea. Because when you're like,
that Charlie,
we've all got a
he's
friend,
at it again.
and you're like, no, just stop before you even start, because no.
The ending is one of those things that will absolutely polarize people. You either
and I think because I was kind of a bit meh through the pacing of the film, then I really liked the car chase.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's gonna be redeemed. And then that happened, and I was like, are you kidding me? I can't believe it.
The ending would be perfectly permissible if it was more of a character story. If it was like, that Charlie's at it again, and we found out if it was a film about Charlie Croker's Capers.
Yeah.
If they called it Charlie Croker's Capers, which would be difficult to say, but I'm sure they would have managed it. And it was just a series of his schemes. But the fact that they bury his character for a full act of the movie.
Yeah.
Really kind of, you're like, oh, he said that. Oh, right. I remember now because half an hour ago he was the funny one.
Yeah.
And then the film ends.
I would say that the kind of like the viewer in me is annoyed that you don't get that conclusion. The filmmaker in me is like, that was brave.
Yeah, and I see that it's really brave.
So I'm a bit torn between the two because I can't, and I know what. So I have a friend who is like, he lives and breathes this movie. He's just written a book on it, celebrating its 50 years and all that. It's all coming out now. And he made the documentary that's on the Blu-ray that I've got. So like, I know someone who knows a lot about this movie. So I know what Charlie's idea was.
Right.
And I know what the opening scene of a potential sequel was going to be.
Ooh.
So Charlie's plan was to turn the engine on in the bus.
Right.
Emptying the fuel tank that's at the back of the bus.
And
causing it to equalise so that at least they could get off it. I'm not sure if the gold is then supposed to fall into the ravine and then they go collect it, or whether they're supposed to be able to counterbalance it enough that they can move it.
Yeah.
But that was his plan, basically, get rid of the petrol at the back and get the engine running, even if it took like 8 hours.
Okay.
I've heard the plan for a sequel. There was a couple of ideas that were floating around, but the main one was that the mafia would fly 2 helicopters with like a massive cable strung between the 2 of them, which would lift the bus back onto the road where the mafia have come, and they take the gold. And the sequel is Charlie and his gang chasing that gold across the French Riviera to get it back.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And that was supposed to be like what happened next and what the sequel was going to be. But because it did so badly in the US, it never happened.
Never happened.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Adam, how did you feel about the ending?
I thought the ending was sort of insulting to the viewer.
Okay.
Because you don't tell a story without ending it.
But lots of films do.
Mm.
Like I said, it bugs me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if this
films
goes
do.
beyond the Rocky freeze finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the beginning, the middle, and no end to all of the arcs of the story. All of them.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that it is.
I mean, in
the
theory,
thing
even
that
the car
polarizes
chase
people.
isn't finished.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's
technically.
I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's not really a head scratcher that people can't agree on it.
I can remember watching this in a film studies class, and one girl in my class getting so mad at that ending.
It's just really unsatisfying.
Yeah.
You're like, ugh.
I feel like this is a film that might, like I can tell why so many English people like The Italian Job.
Mm.
It's a very kind of Eurosceptic, the greatness of British minds and British engineering movie.
Mm.
It doesn't really surprise me that it hasn't done amazingly well
outside of the UK.
Outside of the UK, it doesn't surprise me at all. But and I suppose the climate that I'm watching it in for the first time,
Of course, yeah.
that will always massively
Yeah.
affect how I'm digesting this.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing some toffs go to Italy, basically, the drivers at least, were
Yeah.
very much toffs.
Yeah.
And I see these Italian people, at times, with a super sped up Italian woman talking. I'm like, that's a bit racist.
Yeah.
See, I think if I'd have watched this, I think you're right. I think if I'd have watched this when I was younger,
Yeah.
I'd have felt a bit more positively towards it, probably.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
I would have.
Yeah.
It's not that I feel super awful and that this was like a terrible experience to watch,
Yeah.
but it wasn't satisfying and like super entertaining.
Yeah.
I would
Because,
say.
I mean, you have to bear in mind that I would have watched this almost 30 years ago.
Exactly. And I think like the movies that I was watching when I was a kid would have, we've talked about them, like Fred and Ginger films,
Yeah.
and, some Westerns and old black and white movies, because it's what my mum and dad watched, and it's what was on like on Sunday afternoons, and it's films that they would watch. But I don't know if my mum, for example, if The Italian Job had come on, would have ever kept it on or would have turned it over.
Yeah.
But I think if she had have kept it on and I'd have seen it, I would probably feel really differently, because I'd have that kind
Yeah.
of like sentimental
Yeah.
element to this film, and
And
I'd
you would have watched it at
And
a
been
time
impressed.
when it wasn't pretty embarrassing to be a British nationalist.
Well, yeah.
well,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, and I'd have thought, oh, that was amazing, and oh my goodness, there's cars going down
Yeah.
steps outside a church. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And having watched Fast and Furious and films like that, now some of even the car sequence, which I did really, really enjoy watching, but even that it isn't in the same level as those films
Right.
in terms of impressive.
Yeah. You can't take away the achievement of the physical driving
Yeah.
stunts
No.
in this film.
They're
'Cause
great.
But you can't also, at the same extent, you can't compare them to modern car
No.
chase films
No.
because the CGI is just too damn good.
And, well, I would argue the CGI is too good and they're shot badly now.
They're shot in a different way.
Yeah.
They're shot to make the races look faster.
Yeah, but
So if you watch The Italian Job 1969, I
Yeah.
bet, I can't really remember that well, but I bet if you compare it to 2003, you would almost
Oh, yeah,
certainly
of
get
course.
the opinion, God, it's like they're driving 100 mile an hour faster.
Yeah. So there's something really interesting. I found there's the other movie that came a little bit before this called Robbery, where there's a chase with like a couple of Mark II Jags through the streets of London, where they were sort of legitimately doing 70 to 100 miles an hour through normal streets,
Yeah.
and it's not using quick cuts, it's not using frenetic camera work movement, but you can tell how fast those cars are going.
Yeah.
And I think it's the way they're shot.
Yeah,
And I think with
that's where I
Bullet
like
as well, you
this.
can tell how fast those cars are going, but it's, yeah, I find it's easier to know what's going on
Yeah.
with the kind of more classic car chases.
Yeah, it is, and
personally.
I like that about this sequence. Like, I really enjoyed the fact, and in a shot you can actually see the skill of
Yeah,
an incredibly talented
yeah,
car stunt driver who is literally not relying on CGI. It's not 10 foot
yeah.
of a shot and then redone and redone and redone and redone. It's
I used to have a DVD somewhere of Remy Julien's showreel,
really
like his actual showreel that he would
Hellraiser.
send up. So, it was amazing because he used to have this massive like place that he used to just practice car
Yeah.
stunts.
wow.
Yeah,
Why was Charlie's
awesome.
entire crew so inept? So utterly inept. Why would you even hire these guys? It's a big crew. You've got to pay all of them.
that's true.
One of them gets migraines in the back of a car. One of them gets asthma in the back of a car. One of his professional drivers probably can't, I probably wouldn't be able to do much better, but wasn't that good a professional driver.
Yeah.
Two of them were great.
Yeah.
Just kind of a crappy crew. I'm sure there are more people you could get involved. I'm going to shut up. Oh, other than, I hope he likes spaghetti. They serve it 5 times a day in Italian prisons. You're serving porridge. Like, that's much better. That's much better. I'm done.
You've done?
I
Okay.
think so.
So I think that is us on the Italian Job. Tom, it's your favourite. You love it.
Yeah.
People go watch it.
Yeah.
Me, if you love cars and car films, take a look. I think the last sequence is really good.
Okay.
Me, if you love cars and car films, there are a lot better films to watch. If you like character comedies, there are a lot better films to watch. If you like films from the 60s and car films and character comedies, then you'll have probably, if you like all of those things, you'll have seen the Italian Job already. I'll shut up. Then also, if you listen to this podcast, because we do tell you to watch the film, then I've just wasted my breath.
So next week, we are going to be talking about The Lion King, which I'm super excited about because it's Disney and there's songs and it's just amazing. I cannot wait.
So, The Lion King.
Yes.
All right. We want to start a new thing in this podcast where we sort of give people the motivation to actually sit down and watch the next film we're going to talk about. So it's less sort of like blind homework and more about like pitching the next episode.
Yeah.
So The Lion King, for me, represents the greatest that animated 2D animated film has achieved in the West.
Okay, wow. That's
Yeah.
a pitch.
I think that's like, I'm trying to think of a bigger, better film. And there are personal preferences. I like Disney's Hercules a lot, for example.
Oh, it's a great film.
But generally speaking, The Lion King is huge. And it was so big for Disney as well.
Yeah.
I mean, people forget where Disney were
Yeah.
before then.
Yeah.
The Lion King put a pin in the map
Yep.
and turned maybe the fourth or fifth biggest production house
Yeah.
into the biggest.
Yeah.
It was a watershed moment.
Yeah.
Watershed's probably the wrong term. It was a big moment
Yeah. It was.
Yes.
Yeah.
for the film industry. It changed
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. I mean, my pitch for this film would be, I think it is probably the most incredible music in a Disney film.
Right.
I think.
You didn't like Let It Go, you monster.
No.
I think the trouble with letting go is repetition.
It is. And there's one lyric in it which really bugs me.
Right.
And I can't think what it is right now. But I can look it up.
I think there's. I don't.
fine.
Oh,
You
it
can look
might
up for
it might
next week.
actually be in the Olaf's Winter Adventure.
Oh.
In the opening song of that, there's one note in it that drives me mad because
Yeah.
it's one of those weird ones where they kind of just suddenly fling up like 6 steps, but it's just like just slightly flat,
Just, oh.
Oh, fun.
and it's
not quite where you want it to
bugs me.
be.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I think the story is, for The Lion King, I just think it's probably Disney's greatest achievement.
Right.
The story is it's almost Shakespearean, isn't
Well,
it?
it's
In its
Hamlet.
clean lines. Is it just Hamlet?
Yeah.
It's Hamlet.
It's
It's
just
Hamlet.
Hamlet.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And that makes a lot of sense why it
Yeah.
seems Shakespearean.
Sure.
But also, the music
Yeah.
is. I just watched Rocket Man, the Elton
yes.
Oh yeah.
John
Yeah.
biopic, and it ended before he sits down and writes The Lion King.
Unbelievable.
Right.
Completely ruined my day. Completely ruined my day. I'm not a huge Elton John fan. I think there are a couple of tracks that are bangers, though.
Yeah.
But this has to be some of his best work.
Yeah. I mean, the score is just, dreamy.
The Circle of Life or Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Tom, what's your favourite one?
Well,
Which one makes your heart go gooey?
Well, Tom hasn't seen this film.
I haven't seen this film.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What are you expecting from it?
Well, apparently the greatest Disney movie ever.
Oh no! Don't,
I know. I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't have said
don't make him compare it to the Mighty Ducks.
It came out when I was 14, so like it's not. I was never of the right age for it to be aimed at me.
Yeah.
I just kind of missed it. I think
Sure.
probably the Disney movie that I like the last Disney movie I kind of feel like I watched as a kid
Yeah.
would have been The Little Mermaid.
Right.
So yeah, you'll have to wait and see what I think of it.
I always had this thing with
Yeah.
Disney movies going into them, which I think maybe if you're listening to this and you haven't seen The Lion King, I always think, oh, here's this Disney film. I remember thinking it specifically with Tangled. Oh, it just seems like a silly little film about a silly story set in a
Yeah.
silly place.
And they never are.
I don't understand why I should care. And they never goddamn are.
No.
They're always
There's so much heart.
unexpected and earnest, but not in a cheesy way.
No, not at all.
It's easy to forget that Disney animation studios, Walt Disney Animation Studios, just don't make a bad film.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a bad
I'm trying to think.
Disney film. Animations.
Now, Walt Disney Studios can make bad films. They try not to, and
Yeah.
for the most part, they succeed.
Yeah,
Even when they're making Pirates 4.
right.
It's still a good film. Like, you're still like, oh, I wish I hadn't seen it, but it's fine. Fine.
I haven't seen it.
Nora.
But yeah, it's easy to forget that that Disney,
The
animation studios,
Animations, yeah.
they don't make a bad film. They never have. They likely never will.
Have you seen like Pocahontas or Mulan?
Yes,
Yeah.
both.
Are they good? I've never seen them. I just know
Yeah.
that they're the ones that are
Yeah.
often not as regarded as highly as the others.
Yeah. I
I think
think
that
they
the
are.
least regarded one is probably The Princess and the Frog,
Right, yeah.
Oh, I would love that.
but I think it's good.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen
Basically, I'm just a massive Disney fan.
that. Okay, fine.
It's
Yes.
hard not to be.
I've got virtually all of them on DVD,
Okay.
and I would rewatch them.
I didn't
time and
watch
again.
most Disney films when I was a child.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is
I
something.
watched Aladdin, probably.
Oh, I
Right.
don't know.
I think I watched Beauty. I think I'd watched Beauty and the Beast, and that was probably
Okay.
it.
See, for me, a lot of the charm
I watched all of them as an
of a
adult.
Disney animated film is that I watched them when they came out.
Yeah.
As good as date wise would allow. But I loved watching them as a kid. I mean, I loved musicals, I loved dance, and it was just that type of film was just everything I loved all in one.
Yeah.
And
I mean, The Lion King is just
it's just extraordinary,
so entertaining.
And-
It's exhaustingly entertaining.
isn't it? And the thing that I find incredible about these films is that you can rewatch them, and I have a niece now, and I
Yeah.
watch a
They
lot
play
of
to
Disney films
any
with her.
audience.
And and there's dialogue that I laugh at now
Right.
Yeah,
that I never would have got as a
No.
kid.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's so enjoyable as an adult to watch this. It's not, you don't sit down and think, oh God, I can't believe I just watched a kid's film. Like,
No.
and I know my mum took my niece to see My Little Pony, the animated thing, and it just
Yeah.
looked like, I mean, fluorescent drink throw up all over the screen. It was
Right.
just,
A lot of 40-year-old
Ugh.
men with neck beards in the audience.
and it was a kid's film. It was absolutely, well, I didn't see it, so I can't say that. But from my mum's interpretation, she was like, there was nothing really in it for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
adults. Bearing in mind, half your audience are going to be adults because they're taking their kids.
Yeah.
That's something that Disney have always been very good at. And Pixar as well.
Yeah, Pixar
Always
too.
been very good at making
I think
films
Pixar
that play-
more so.
Yeah.
I think Pixar's storylines
I'm not
often,
sure about more so. I think equally. Maybe Pixar tell slightly more adult jokes.
Oh, I
Maybe.
don't know. I'd have to watch them all again.
know.
What a chore.
What really surprises me about The Lion King, because I've already seen it because I was that excited for next week's
Wow,
episode,
that is keen.
that I forget how pacey it is as well.
Mm.
It's a very quick moving film, which when I remember it, I don't remember it just moving from scene to scene to scene, knocking out song and joke and song and joke and joke and song and dramatic scene. Jeremy Irons is...
Oh my God, he's so good.
We all know that Jeremy Irons is a good villain, so it's almost not worth talking about the fact that he's fantastic in this.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for you to watch it, Tom.
I'm so excited for you to watch it too.
Do need to watch it with your daughter. It'll start.
Okay.
She'll love it, and
Or maybe
there's
watch it.
nothing adult in it at
Well,
all.
maybe watch it because you love it. You will love it. And then you can watch it again because
Okay.
you'll be like, hey, Lucy, you'll love this film.
Okay.
It's a
And
double
then you
watcher.
get to watch it twice.
Right.
It's a
okay.
double watcher,
Yeah.
at least. And if you're watching at home, you can leave your impressions of it on our social networks
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
if you want.
Cool.
So
The tags will be at the end.
2 pictures to definitely, please, watch The Lion King if you haven't, Tom.
And catch up with us next week.
And yeah, catch up with us next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. This podcast was recorded in the Upbeat studio in Soho. For studio inquiries, drop us an email on studio@upbeatproductions.com. You can also find us on Twitter. Head to @UpbeatProd to see what we're up to, and @Upbeat_ENTS for our film coverage and entertainment news. It's the circle of life.